We're here. We're live. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Happy Saturday. It's time for some self-care with Michelle Graff, the expert when it comes to training, the expert when it comes to compassion fatigue, the expert when it comes to giving compassion and all that good stuff. Anyway, I am so happy this morning that you guys can join us when you come in. Just say your name or where you're from, and if you have a business, please put that in the comment section. You guys know I love to support small businesses, so that will be wonderful this morning. I'm excited. I hope you're excited too. And I know this is that time of the year. It's almost Christmas. Can you believe, Michelle, the year is almost over?
I know. What a relief. Yeah.
Yeah, that is something.
As crazy as 2002 has been, it feels like it's gone quickly to me.
That's true. It has really gone by quickly. And I know we say that every year, but this year just felt a little bit different, especially with COVID and all the changes that have happened and it's all kind of crazy stuff. Hey, thank you for joining, Rick. Oh, my friends on YouTube. Hey, praise the Lord. So, you guys, I am so excited to share with you. Michelle has a new book out. I love this book. I'm going to tell you what, it is an easy read. And yes, I'm going to repeat this for when other people get on. Thank you for joining, Dr. Laura. It is an easy read, but it's a small book, but it's packed with so much information. I'm telling you what, I thought, oh, this is small. I could read this, in a couple of days or whatever, and I do all my reading like at maybe 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning or something like that. So yeah, any catching up I need to do, I always do that early in the morning. But this book was like really so good. I love how you captured the heart of people who help other people, not just working in a professional field, but even the people that are home, the moms and the daughters that are taking care of one another, or whether it's a son taking care of his mom. It's just awesome. So I'm gonna let her tell you guys about that. I could talk days about this book right here, not even to mention the brain science. And for those of you who know me, y'all know, look, I kind of, that's my thing. Brain, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, what makes us tick and what makes us keep ticking and what makes us stop ticking, I'm all about that. So that's my thing right there. So, and my mentor for that is Quick, KWIK. So if you ever check out Jim Quick, he has the awesomest podcast ever when it comes to brain training or anything that has to do with brain trauma. This man is a living testimony, a walking living testimony. So you got to check him out sometime if you're into personal growth or into anything that has to do with learning faster or reading faster or just getting smart, period, getting wise, period. Yeah. So Jim Quick, that's JIMKWIK. Now today we're going to talk to Miss Michelle Graff. Michelle, thank you so much for being here. I love you. You are just truly a great friend, a great mentor, and I appreciate you. You're a great trainer. So just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Tracy. And back at you. I consider you not just a colleague, but also a friend. And thank you for having me today. This is exciting for me. You talked about brain science. That is my passion too. It fascinates me. So I love, reading, research, anything regarding brain science. And I find it so applicable, not only for the work I do, because I work for human service organizations and with helping professionals doing professional training and consultation, but I just think there's so many personal applications that's something that, I encourage everybody to learn more about how your brain works, because it really can be a helpful thing just in learning to navigate life. So that's something that's was an interest in mine. And I have a business called Cultivating Human Resiliency. And I work with social service organizations, mostly providing professional training and consultation. And maybe 2 years ago, I started to notice that compassion fatigue was my most requested topic. That was something that all the organizations I worked with and it wanted. And when I hosted trainings, it was the one that got the most response from the public. So I knew that that was something that there was a need. So I really started to focus a lot of my research on compassion fatigue and what was out there. And then I began writing this book actually about a year ago. People keep telling me, wow, what great timing to be coming out with this book now. Well, that wasn't planned. This was something, compassion fatigue has been around for a long time, way before COVID and this pandemic. But I just think it seems to be, the awareness seems to be heightened now. And so the timing did work out well for that, but that wasn't planned on my part. So the book really is an examination of compassion fatigue, but I wanted to add something new to the field of study out there about compassion fatigue. So it's not just the symptoms of compassion fatigue, although I want people to be able to read it and be able to recognize whether that's what they're experiencing, and I hope that's the case. But it also goes into sort of what compassion fatigue is, what's going on, why we have this response as helping professionals, and then some ideas of how to combat it so that there's some practical application. It's written for the helping professional. Hopefully, my hope is that a helping professional can pick it up, read it, and get a kernel of something out of it that's going to help them not only combat compassion fatigue, but build their resiliency and be able to be more compassionate for others. That's sort of one of the paradoxes of compassion fatigue. It feels like you're depleted of compassion fatigue and that you are completed of compassion and that you want to, get away from the compassion. But really, we need more compassion in this world. And it's our trigger, but it's also the antidote.
I totally agree. We do need more compassion in this world. We need more patience in this world. And I know a lot of times people say, when you don't pray for patience because you're going to go through something. Well, hey, that's a test. True love has to be tested, But, I think that most of us that are watching this, we're kind of at that age and that stage in our life where we can pass this test. If you've done it before, you can do it again. And certainly, I definitely encourage you guys to get this book. And actually, I'm going to be purchasing one for somebody who is really interested in this book today. So I'll be figuring that out as we go further in the interview today. But as I said, I'm gonna tell you up front, I'm gonna ask Michelle to come back because there are so many things that I would like to cover in here. I think the part about she has a lot of different things in the book, activities that you can go through and just find out, why are you even in this field in the first place? What you need to do to take care of yourself while you're in this field, and what you need to do before you get into this field. And I think that's really helpful because a lot of people ask me, they say, hey, what do I need to do, Tracy, before I decide to jump into something like this? And I said, well, if you are wanting to get in this field, there's a reason that you're attracted to this. And so I'll let Michelle talk to you a little bit about that because she can explain that really good. And then I want to really just talk today even about the triangle right there. So Let me tell y'all, this is not even 1/8 part of the book that we're going to talk about. So that's why I'm going to tell you guys, you need to come back when you see the name Michelle Graff. Y'all need to come back here or sign up for one of her trainings if she decides to do a training in the future because they are fantastic. You will leave changed and you'll just be transformed and it'll be better all the way around. So either one of those you want to talk about, Michelle, hit it for me.
Thank you. Well, you threw a lot out there, Tracy. I do think that there are some qualities that people that are drawn to the helping profession have that can also make them more vulnerable to compassion fatigue. The first being, we're usually pretty, thank you, Karen, hello. We're usually pretty empathetic people, or empathy can often be our strong suit, at least when we get into the helping field in the beginning. What happens sometimes is that what makes us empathetic and connect with others can also make us more vulnerable. So we sort of shut down that part of us, or we sometimes we're even advised to harden our hearts. Mm-hmm. And I hear that a lot in the field. When veteran people are talking to newer people, they'll say, you got to harden that heart a little bit. And, I caution people, don't, being empathetic is a wonderful trait. It's a very human trait. And actually, we want to be able to practice that and be more empathetic. We just have to do it within boundaries. We have to learn to set boundaries. We have to learn to be able to rejuvenate ourselves so we don't feel depleted of compassion. And so I think there's a lot of natural qualities in somebody that becomes a helping profession that can also make them vulnerable to compassion fatigue. But I would not discourage anybody from choosing this profession, or even if you don't become a helping professional, just being a compassionate person in life and being an empathetic person. That's the way we were designed to be. That's not a bad thing. So really, I try to help the readers of my book understand, to be able to recognize, to increase their self-awareness so they can recognize when they're triggered and feeling some of those symptoms, and take action to do some things to sort of reset. And also some everyday practices, or, the book's divided into two sections. The first is about self-awareness and self-regulation. But then the second part is about the skill sets that we need to practice on a regular basis to help build that resiliency. So it's not just about in the moment, how we take care of ourselves. It's how we continue to grow and develop into compassionate people and have that resilience, a stronger resiliency, so that we can continue to effectively connect to people and offer services that are helpful. Because you know this, Tracy, what makes you effective in your career as a helping professional, regardless of what career, is your ability to connect to others. All these different skills and techniques are wonderful, and we need to learn them. But the bottom line, it's your ability to be a human being and connect to another human being. That's where real healing and growth comes from. It's a connection to each other. So
I totally agree, and I love how you talked about how sometimes we're encouraged to harden our hearts. I remember the first time I worked in the nursing home, so I was activities director, and oh my goodness, when the first time somebody died, I cried. It was sad to me because I had grown close to that person. So so I had a whole bunch of new grandmas and papas in the nursing home, and I just love being around them and gaining all their wisdom and making them feel like they're still valuable, because they are still valuable. But sometimes we feel like we're just throwaway. So when the person died, I was like, hey, we gotta have some kind of memorial or something up here or something to celebrate their life. And and but the director, she was like, oh no, we can't do that. And I was like, oh no, I'm leaving this meeting. Y'all do what y'all gonna do. I'm gonna go out here.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have to cry. I have to release this stuff, and then I'm okay. But yeah.
Yes, I had a similar experience to that too when I was younger, working with the elderly. And I think you sort of bring up a point that the reason, if you're wondering why my book is titled The Compassion Fatigued Organization, it's because we need to recognize that the symptoms of compassion fatigue don't just happen in individuals, they happen within the cultures of organizations. And that response that you experience of, that no, that's not how we deal with things, and that's a real common response. And I think that in itself is a organizational culture symptom of compassion fatigue. And what happens, because organizational cultures are really just the day in, day out behaviors of the individuals that work through the organization. So when an organization has a history of being exposed to secondary trauma as well as primary trauma, they're going to, over time, develop the same types of symptoms that an individual does in terms of how they respond to compassion fatigue. And so then organizations start to feel like they're places in which there is no compassion. And these are organizations that were designed to do really good things with good intentions. And what I like to say, or what I like to remind people, that that's not a true reflection of the heart of the organization. Those are, when it feels like that organization is depleted of compassion, that's a symptom of compassion fatigue. We need to be compassionate to the helping organizations too. And that what we need to do is really help change that culture within the organization, and help them to recognize those symptoms so that
Oh,
we can work
Michelle, you are so sweet. You just that's why I was that's why I was laughing because I'm like, she's so sweet. And I know because okay, so a lot of you don't know anything about Michelle, but when I met Michelle, she's a VP in the company, and that's how I met Michelle. And so she has a heart for from the head, top down and from the bottom up. So she has a good understanding of what it's like for somebody on the very front lines, middle management, executive management, and then I don't know, whatever the upper executive management is before that upper level up that. So that's why I laugh when she says that, because about the heart of the organization, because I believe many times we start off with that heart, but when they start making those changes and those decisions because of that secondary trauma, you get they start compartmentalizing things and don't even notice that they are experiencing secondary trauma.
right.
Then even getting confused with primary trauma because then they lose sight of the people and why they started and what the real mission is until they have those quarterly meetings and oh yeah, let's get back to this is what we were supposed to do. Yeah, let's get back to that. The whole time we need to kind of get back to that. So that's what I love about your book. Is like it helps everybody. It defends the little people, middle people, and the people on the top.
Yeah, I think it's so important that we acknowledge that, because I think so many helping professionals that do work for organizations, it starts to feel like that's normal. And so I think just even acknowledging that exists, and and self-care is so important. However, it's not the end. It's not the only approach. So oftentimes it feels like to the frontline staff, when they're told, well, you need to do more self-care, that it's their fault that they're experiencing these symptoms. And we need to support each other. Self-care is very important. It's a chapter of the book, but we need a culture that supports that idea, that self-care is not something, it's not about just putting myself first, or it's not okay to put others first, because I don't think like that. I think it's wonderful to put others first. However, we have to take care of ourselves, kind of like when the flight attendant tells us to put our oxygen mask on first before we take care of others. That has nothing to do with being selfish. That has to do with the fact that you are not going to be of service to others if you don't take care of yourself. And I really think that the change that needs to occur has to happen within. We all have to take that responsibility then to examine how we respond to things, how we respond to others, what do our interactions look like. And it's not one person's responsibility, but it's something we need to all help each other work on.
True. I like that. Now, I hope this is not jumping too much, but can you talk to us a little bit about that triangle that I was telling them about? I wanted to ask. I think it's so important to figure out like where we are in life and just to kind of always be re-examining that.
Yes, absolutely. And many of you might be familiar with it. This is not something I came up with. The drama triangle has been around. It was part of transactional analysis, and when I went to college, this was something that I remember taking a course on, transactional analysis. So this has been around for a long time. It is used now by the trauma-informed community as an example of how trauma reenactment happens in relationships. So when Tracy talks about the triangle, what she's talking about is that we have identified roles that we take in our interpersonal interactions. And Stephen Cartman, who was the person that invented this, put labels on those roles, and he called them victim, rescuer, and persecutor. So when I respond to somebody in a conflict, that because of my past trauma, I might take the role of a victim, which would be somebody that feels like, poor me, this is, I have no responsibility, all this is happening to me. Or I might take the role of a rescuer, which is, okay, I need to fix this. I need to fix this for other people. Other people can't help themselves. I need to come in and fix it. Or I take the role of a persecutor. And a persecutor is somebody that sort of pushes the blame onto other people, but also does it in a way that can be coercive, or labeling is an example of a persecutor response. We don't often think of that, but when we automatically label somebody, oh, you're just, you're a narcissist, or there's a lot of that I see on social media. That's another type of persecutor response. What those responses really are is there are natural fight, flight, and freeze response. When we feel threatened, and conflicts can feel like a threat to us, we're going to respond in a way of fight, flight, and freeze. That's how we're wired. And interpersonally, that looks like the fight response is that persecutor response. I need to control the situation, or I need to, through coercion or threats or labeling. Or it can look like the freeze response, which is that victim response where you just sort of shut down. Or it can look like a flight response. And that's that rescuing. We don't think of that as flight, but oftentimes when we do, and that means when we're sort of crossing a boundary and doing for others, or rescuing behavior can be pacifying things so that there's no conflict, to avoid conflict. It's kind of an avoidance behavior or a manipulative behavior. And it's really because we're uncomfortable with the emotions, the strong emotions of the situation. So we're trying to control other people's emotional response through rescuing type behavior. So the idea of that triangle is to be able to recognize when you're doing that, because none of those things resolve conflict, and none of those things are necessarily healthy responses, but they're not our only choices. We can learn different responses. We can learn, once we recognize that we're responding that way, we can learn better ways to respond to conflict in ways that improve relationships and don't break them down. So that's just in a nutshell. It's something that I go into several times in the book to give different examples of an understanding. It can be a very helpful tool, though. It really
it can be very complex too, because I remember first learning it. Every training, I would ask you about this very same one. I know you have to explain it to me 15,000 times, but I'm always trying to figure out. So where am I in that triangle? What am I trying to rescue somebody? Am I trying to just? It's kind of like when we tell people, don't point the finger, don't blame everybody else, because you have one pointing this way, but you got all these other fingers coming back at you like a gun, right? So it's like when you talk to your so. Don't nobody tell my husband, because he ain't watching this, right? He probably won't reroute you, but I'm just saying. So it's like when you tell your husband you got a problem, the first thing they want to do is fix it. And sometimes we don't want it fixed. We want to just work it out ourselves, but we need to vent. So I'm always trying to figure out, okay, so where am I? Because when I get a client, I don't want to always try to just fix it right away, because for them to build that resilience, they need to have some skills themselves to learn to know that they are capable of doing this themselves, so they can not just bounce back, but come to a place where they don't just come where they were, but to keep going further and know that if it happens again, I have the skills. I went through it before, and now I can keep on pushing. I can keep going. Like, this is nothing. I got this. Yeah.
Well, and what I appreciate about that, Tracy, is you're figuring out why you respond the way. The one thing I think people have to be careful about, it's really not about why your husband responds that way. It is for him, but that's not for you to figure out. But probably you could just assume it comes from a place of love that he wants to help you. But however, I think when people respond like that, they have to ask themselves, what's the emotion I'm struggling with? You know what? Why does that make me uncomfortable to see somebody come to me with a problem that I feel like I need to solve it? But that's that person's work. Not, we have to remember that using any of this information, that has to come from within. I mean, that the idea is that we have to do our own kind of figuring, we have to come to our own level of self-awareness
Exactly.
for
Yeah.
our responses, but and to label somebody else. I don't want to see people go, "Oh, you're a rescuer, you're a persecutor." That's not the idea. It's
Right.
not about labeling other people. It's just
Right.
about gaining a little self-awareness in our own interactions, so that we can counteract some of the negative thinking that comes along with that. One of the things that's important about those three different roles, they all have the same stuck thinking. They all come from the same thinking patterns. It's not that you are a rescuer or you are a victim or you are a persecutor. It's that you have some past unhelpful thinking that's going to cause you to respond in one of those roles.
Yes, I love it. I love that you said it like that because that's one of my favorite quotes is about what we think about. It turns into our behaviors, and that turns into our character, and so forth and so on. So yeah, that you're exactly right, Michelle. I love that about it. But it is good for us to be able to examine for ourselves where are we, and then how can we get to that next place so we can build that resilience so we can get to the point where we actually do some self-care because sometimes we don't even feel worthy enough to do self-care or self-love on ourselves. And I know it's almost time for us to go, but I just wanted to share a few things with you, and I'll do that after. I want Michelle to share some stuff with you too. uh, Show us your book for a minute and tell us where that we can get that.
Okay.
I love it. Hold it still. Yes. Okay.
And it's available on Amazon.
Okay.
So
Awesome. And I also put a link to her book, where you can get it on Amazon in the comment. Well, not in the comment, right here in the little section above where it's a bit.ly link. So you can just click on that and go there. If you know somebody who is a nurse or who is a doctor or in any kind of field like that, social worker, it's going to be a good, helpful gift to give them something for Christmas or a birthday or whatever. Because I was reading just last night, 46% of nurses are burnt out, and that's just from this season alone.
Yeah.
And you know how they go. You know how data is. Data is just the amount of people that you're able to track at that time. So the numbers could be a little bit higher than that. So we definitely want to support our people that are supporting other people. And also, if you know somebody who is taking care of a parent, a loved one, they get stressed out, they get burnt out too. It's a job. It's a real 24/7 job. Just like being a mom at home. Sometimes moms don't get credit, but you never get to stop being a mom, until they leave your house. Yes. You still have to be a mom then, but it's not the same. But when they're leave, you don't have to worry about it. But when they're there, you always got to take care of them. But when your parents get older, they turn back into that baby. My daddy used to say, once a lady, twice a baby. And so you'll be the one to help take care of them or to love on them and make sure that they have what they need. But a lot of people get burned out, stressed out, and then they feel guilty, right? So do you want to shed a little bit of light on that guilty stuff for us?
Pardon?
Would you like to shed a light?
Well, I think that's just part of our, I'm not sure it's guilt. I think it's shame. And shame is a universal feeling. And shame it has nothing to do with self-esteem or, you can have a great self-esteem. Shame is when the opposite of shame is belonging. So shame is when something about ourselves we're seeing as not connecting or not belonging to everyone else. So I think the more we can recognize that we are human, we're worthy, but we're also flawed. That's a part of being human. The more we can allow some of the uncomfortable emotions to connect us and not make us feel separated. Guilt is a emotion when you actually do something wrong.
Right.
Where shame is that where you feel like there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
And, and I think more oftentimes when we say guilt, what it is
Mm-hmm.
we're feeling is shame. People don't want to admit that they're feeling shame. It's a scary emotion, but
Yeah.
it's also universal. Every one of us, at times, that's why things like rejection or embarrassment, all of those can trigger thoughts of shame, and we do a lot to avoid that feeling.
Sure. Sure.
So,
That's for sure.
yeah, and so, but again, and I think people can think of themselves as identify with being a caregiver, not a care recipient, and we can be both, and we are both. And so it's, I think that's the reluctance to take care of yourself comes from people that want to see themselves that way as being
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable. And the truth is, we all we all need connection. We all need care. We all need compassion. We
Right.
are we are recipients, not just dispensers. So
Right. I love that. We are recipients and not just dispensers. That's a good quote, Michelle. You should put that in the infographic. Okay, so before we sign off today, so my one tip of the day is about love. I don't know, I'm on this theme of love. I've been working really long hours, but my season is almost over for this, so this is I'm glad, I'm excited, I'm happy. Um, but you know what? When you feel like you're tired and burnt out, stressed out, can't take no more, don't want to be bothered no more, don't want to deal no more, that kind of thing, always make sure you go back to knowing that you are loved by somebody and you are loved by God, you are loved by other people. I was sitting at my desk the other day and I just kept hearing myself saying, I am so loved. People really love me. And you know what? You never know how people really feel about you, but it doesn't matter. When you think that way, like Michelle was saying, when you start thinking those things, you start feeling better, you start feeling good. I started smiling while I was talking because I talk literally all day long. And so I get hoarse and everything all day long. So literally I was talking, and as I was talking, I was thinking that I just started smiling, and I know my voice changed, and I started sitting up straight, and I was like, "Oh, let me stand up." So I stood up, and I just started feeling better. So just know this: that you are loved, and somebody is there in your corner. And I'm always telling you guys that we have angels on assignment for us. So just release your angels, give them something to do, and you know what? Ask God every day, every morning. I always say, "Lord, would you fill me with the love of God? Let that flood me and fill me so that I feel full." Whatever I pour out, it is just coming from the overflow. So after I get through pouring out, I still have something inside of me. Because believe me, especially if you're in this field, and hey, my cousin Renee is on here, so she's in this field too. She works in Oklahoma in Job Corps, so sometimes dealing with people and not just the kids, but our staff, you feel drained, you feel unappreciated, and it's not so much that you're not appreciated. Sometimes it's time for you to move on, and we got to recognize when it's time to get that and move on to bigger and better things. So anyway, that's my encouragement for the day is keep thinking that I am loved. Keep saying that over and over. And I'm telling you what, these endorphins get to going in your head start lighting up. Ooh, you get to feeling good. I'm just saying. So the other thing is, I promised you guys that I was going to give away a book to somebody. And so if you are still here at the very end, which is now, then I want you to think of a number between 1 and 20. And whoever comes closest, I'm going to write it down right now. Then that's who I'm going to give the book to. Seriously. So let's get these numbers flowing. Let's get it going. Somebody put a number in there.
hey,
Yes,
Tracy, do you have the link or do you want me to provide that?
I have a link, but you can put it in there if you want to. I
Do you
put
want
one
me
up.
put in the chat.
Uh-huh. Thank you. All right. All right. Come on, numbers. Come on. Keep going. Somebody, I forgot what I said, the number. Whoop! Somebody hit it on the head. Okay, so my brother Ricardo Wade hit it on the head for real. Seriously, I don't know if y'all can see this good or not, but it does say 13, and he put 13 in the box. And I really praise the fact that he is watching from YouTube. I'm trying to get you guys to meet me over on the YouTube side if you can. If it's not convenient for you, don't worry about it. But I'm gonna be just straight up. I'm trying to get my hours up to 4,000 hours and my 1,000 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed and you're watching this, make sure you hit that button to subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell so you can get that notice every time something new is uploaded, especially when I come back on here with Miss Michelle Graff. I want to thank you again for joining us today and sharing just a little bit of your book. I'm encouraging you still go and get this book. It is called The Compassion Fatigued Organization. And that don't mean keep having compassion on your organization. What I'm saying is pray for the folks. Okay, pray for businesses and pray for the folks in the businesses. Because we all need it. Because I believe we do all start with a great heart, a good mission, and a good assignment of things that we want and stuff like that. But we do get lost along the way. We do get lost. So any last thoughts, Michelle? Any other good quotes you want to throw in there for us?
Just remember that self-care is not numbing, that self-care needs to be connective, and our best resource for healing, for feeling safe again, for growth, for thriving is each other. And that connecting, and I know it's been difficult in this time, but connecting any way we can, whether it be via Zoom or in person, is so important for ourselves.
I agree. And Michelle, I also wanted to thank you for writing this book because you have so much information. Michelle is so wise, you guys. I'm just telling you, you know what? If you don't know Michelle, you really do need to connect with her. If you haven't been to one of her trainings, it will help you in so many ways. She offers a lot of different types of trainings, but it can help any single body. And especially if they're teenagers. I know she's not used to doing teenagers, but I'm just being honest with you guys. So she's helpful to anybody when it comes to emotional regulation, any of that kind of stuff. Michelle, that's your fault. That's your girl. That's your go-to girl, Michelle. So well, I love this book. It is an easy read. It's small, but it's power packed. Yeah, and it's big enough for even my eyes to see without having to put my glasses on. All right. I love you all. Peace out. See you next weekend.
Well, thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.